Dennis Prager here. In my studio is one of the most interesting people in the United States of America. In fact, I would even go further, in North America. Western Hemisphere.
Your wife, Susan.
That's true, too. Okay, this is a problem, my friends, because you understand that when Ann Coulter comes to town, the highlight of her visit is seeing my wife, who drags me along to lunch. All right, bring your husband, that's fine. But the real thing is to bring Sue. Ann Coulter is one of the handful of people who doesn't need an introduction, and that's the truth. She is that well known. Let me say a few words about you, because I'm asked about you, more than occasionally. I have said, because I believe it, she is brilliant, but brilliance doesn't matter if it's not in the use of good values. Do I agree with her on everything? It's so irrelevant. I don't agree with my wife on everything. I don't agree with me on everything. I don't agree with the living martyr on everything. It's such a silly question. Do you agree on everything? Is the net result of Ann Coulter's work a better America? Yes, it is. Okay? Simple as that. Plus, her books are brilliant. And I just want to add this. It is a scandal. It is an intellectual scandal that the New York Times does not review them, or the Washington Post, or the LA Times, or NPR. It is like Tom Sowell. Tom Sowell, who is arguably the most brilliant economist after, who's our hero?
Milton Friedman.
Milton Friedman. The most brilliant, but not just economist. The man is just brilliant in every arena. I bet you 95% of left-wing intellectuals never heard of him. Mm-hmm. That's a scandal. Mm-hmm. So, by the way, we heard of all of them.
Keith Olbermann denounced him once, calling him Thomas Sowell. And I thought, you
really?
Fake phony fraud.
Oh, my
You
God.
can't even get the guy's name right.
Okay, well, then, who said that?
Keith Olbermann.
Keith Olbermann.
You're so lucky I'm a hate watcher. I know everything
Is
you
Keith
said.
Olbermann still doing anything?
Oh, no.
Okay, fine.
He's home with his cat.
All right,
his
that's
mother's
beautiful.
House slippers.
Okay, so you see, Ann Coulter, you're a firebrand. Is that fair to say?
I like that one.
I know, no clue. But please, my friends, her books are so important and fully annotated. Fully. There isn't one fact said without a footnote. Just so you'll know. What was your last book?
Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. And it really is all you need to know for the next 2 years, because if you're a hate watcher like I am, it's the exact same stories coming up over. Everybody always wants me to have a TV show. I have no interest in a TV show. But I did think of one episode. It would be me and a studio audience, and I'd show like last night's Rachel Maddow show or clips from it, and have the studio audience guess, is this last night's show or is it October 2017?
That's brilliant.
Or is it January 2018? It never changes.
Such a great point.
And you were just saying before we went on air, and I completely agree with you, and most people listening to us would think we're nuts. Don't really care that much about politics. But I'm with you. It's the larger picture. Mm-hmm. And that is a lot of the problem. And I love our side, and I'm glad they're out fighting. But that's a lot of the problem with the response to the Russia nonsense. They get down in the weeds with what McCabe said to whom and who Bruce Orr is. That's not resistance is futile. No, each scandal, it's like a motion to dismiss I'm making on each one of the scandals. Even if everything they say is true, you haven't given us a scandal.
Well, that's right. We're inundated with trivia.
Yes, and people get into it and gives them something to talk about on TV, both our side and their side.
Right.
But for normal people, I promise you, you don't need to know who Bruce Orr is.
Why would a man who is in the pocket of Vladimir Putin tell Germany, you better not rely on Russia for your energy needs?
Right.
Why would he supply Ukraine with lethal weapons?
And moreover, one of the things, we don't want to waste much time on Russia, but one of the things that I think is being completely missed in this, of the promises Trump made, of the things that set him apart from every other candidate, One of them was that he wanted better relationship with Russia. It was Carly Fiorina. It was George Pataki saying, I would supply Ukraine with lethal weapons. And remember, Carly was going to move like our battleships around. Okay, those candidates lost. Trump won, promising better relationship with Russia. But now he's sort of been forced by the media into being much more aggressive toward Russia. And it's not the Soviet Union anymore. Reagan won. It's over. It's no more corrupt than half of our, lovely allies like Saudi Arabia.
I was listening to NPR, and it kills me. I don't remember who said it. Either it was a Democratic politician or an NPR commentator, that Russia is an existential threat. That's the word. They love existential.
They love
Global warming's existential. So many existential threats. It's amazing our existence continues. Russia is not an existential threat.
Except the actual existential threat, the fact that we have no borders.
Okay, we're going to go to that. That's your passion, and you have been right, as usual, by the way, on that fact. Let me just review what I was talking about at the end of the last hour. I have never found data so difficult to find in all of my career as data on the amount of crime committed by illegal immigrants. A, is it my faulty research, or B, is it correct, and if so, why?
You may not remember this, but your parent company, my parent company, Salem Regnery, that published Adios America, I was writing a completely different book. Immigration was going to be, I don't like focusing on single topics. I like a broad overview, like treason, and I got a lot in on Joe McCarthy in my book Treason. Well, for the book I was writing, which actually I've never written, it seems like kind of a good idea for a book, as soon as we save the country, for Adios America, I forget what the title was going to be, but it was a completely different book. I had already written a couple of chapters. I get to the immigration chapter, and that's what I start looking up. How many immigrants are in prison, state, both legal and illegal?
Oh, okay, both.
I want them both.
Right.
Because the government is inviting these Somalis in. Can I get their track record? Also state, federal, what crimes have they committed? And I spent 2 weeks, and I'm a fanatical researcher. And I just gave up in frustration and rage, and I called up Margie, and I said...
Of Regnery.
I got a new book. I have just uncovered the most massive conspiracy. I mean, you would think that people arguing about it, Cato Institute versus whomever was on our side on the issue, and there aren't many, or, this or that government report I could find, as Chapter 7, I think, describes the process I went through and what you end up finding. You finally think you've got a report on, some small aspect of it. I mean, just something like how many Hispanics are in prison. The only, prison population by ethnicity and race. You read it and think, oh my gosh, I finally have it. And then there's a little asterisk at the bottom saying, for every year except, 1920, Hispanics are counted as what? Well, thank you for that, government. This is one of my complaints, and they're legion, with Donald Trump. Why hasn't he put John Lott in charge of the Bureau of Justice Statistics? You were just saying this would be a good cause to fund. John Lott should be funded to do this. He could do the same thing for immigration that he did to guns, but there's no private money to fund it because
Why?
We saw it. We've been seeing it now that people are paying attention basically since Trump has been elected. I have never seen an issue where all of the elites are so hysterically on the same side, and Trump knew this. I mean, he should have known it from his campaign. It is the donors. It's the Koch brothers. It's Cato Institute. Frankly, it's Heritage Foundation. It is both the left and the right. It is the establishment Republicans. It's the establishment Democrats. And the fact that they can produce, there are many examples, produce this bill and even present it to Trump for his signature. They talk about Trump being the madman. They are the madmen with the grenade saying, we're just going to blow this country up, and we don't care. We want the cheap labor, and the Democrats want the votes. Usually people are passionate, this level of passion, for something like going to war or not going to war or civil rights. This is for, we're sharks, we have no brain, but we have a huge appetite, and we just want to keep the cheap labor flowing. When you have Mike Lee on the same side, and even Tom Cotton fell with this last bill, increasing all the H-1B workers, John Thune, increasing all the B2 workers, and details don't really matter, but just dumping more and more cheap labor on the country while they're pretending they care about the American people. No, they don't.
That was powerful. So that explains, among other things, I'm going to get back to the obfuscation of the data, because I have a theory, and I don't know if it's accurate. But that explains the Cato Institute report, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
okay.
Koch brothers.
Back in a moment with Ann Coulter. I'm Dennis Prager.
The Dennis Prager Show.
And we're going to talk about a lot of things, but this is new to me. The almost impossibility of getting statistics on the percentage of crimes or the simply amount of crimes committed by illegal immigrants in the United States or illegal aliens. To that, I want to take a call or two because these people have firsthand, or they claim to firsthand experience. Monrovia, California, Harry, Dennis Prager, and Ann Coulter. Hi.
Hi, you guys. They're my favorite people.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yay.
Yes. Okay, I'll be real quick about it. I'm retired from the Sheriff's Department. That's Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And what happened is that they used to have a intake at the hospitals and emergency rooms that you had to check a box that said citizen or, and if not, where were you born? Well, they took that off.
When did they take it off?
In the 80s. And then they did the same thing with the booking slips. With the booking slip, it would say citizen or non-citizen, if you, and you would go from there. It would say things like, where were you born? You know, that box there, for me, Chicago, okay, Illinois. And all of them, they would either leave it blank or everyone was from San Diego because it's a Hispanic name. And I'm not even sure.
Was this a California state order? Do you have any idea of the genesis?
It's L.A. County. L.A. County is what I'm familiar with. I never had to deal with the state there.
I see. So it came from L.A. County in the 80s, in the 1980s.
Yes. Yeah, because what they did is they figured out that they used all the old slips up, and then they, by the 90s, that little check box to say if you're a citizen or not citizen. So when I was working around in the 2000s, that was gone.
So you know what? Thank you so much. That is very important. But I'm just thinking, though, it's probably the only arena in America that doesn't have identity politics.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
And voting.
Criminal. Oh, and voting. That's right. I mean, if you apply to a college, I mean, if you are anything but white Anglo-Saxon Protestant,
right,
you're in great shape. I mean, that's why Elizabeth Warren wrote Native American.
Yeah.
Wrote it in her own hand.
What this guy was just saying, it shows California is the vanguard for the rest of the country. They do it first. This was the first state to be ruined by illegal and overwhelming legal immigration. But there are two things I would like to highlight. One is, you said this, but it's so important. It needs to be raised and have people remember it. Which side wants the actual numbers? It's not theirs.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So they keep arguing.
Yes.
Cato, when I stumbled upon this and I'm looking at the debates, our side just kept arguing about, well, we're looking at this other, we've counted up this or that or this other thing to try to get this vague estimate. And then, but we know exactly how many Samoans have battery-powered radios. The Census Bureau collects that information. These are people who are coming in contact with government officials throughout their stay in the federal and state prison system. How about we count? How about that's all we need? And I notice that my side is the only side that keeps saying, let's find out, instead of arguing about our impressionistic. And the other thing that leads to is the GAO numbers that Sue was just talking about. I go through about 10 things they leave out to underestimate the number of immigrants in prison, like the one I just mentioned. For one thing, the state figures, I'm sure you know this, Sue. I'm looking at Sue when she's been reading it all week. The state figures are the ones reported by the state for reimbursement by the federal government. So the GAO says a lot of states don't even submit. So we're only getting their estimates.
Why wouldn't they submit? They don't get reimbursement for illegal aliens?
They get it, but sometimes, who knows? I don't think they get that much. It's not a huge
All
part
right,
of
so
the
what does
budget.
the reimbursement issue have to do with the lack of numbers? I didn't follow that.
The GAO collects the state prison numbers from the states themselves.
Got that.
At least when I looked, the majority of states weren't even submitting those numbers.
Okay, so I got all right.
Why do they submit it all? A small amount of reimbursement. And even there, what the states are doing is asking.
Uh-huh.
They ask, are you a citizen? And
Right,
that's
you can say anything.
You can say anything. They also, in one case, I forget which it is, I believe in the state cases, they count of course, state cases only count illegal immigrants. In federal, they count both legal and illegal, and I want both, and I think any citizen should want both. I mean, it's bad enough to have criminals running across our border.
But we want specific
but I want to know how many are legal. Who's our government letting in?
I have to tell you, your question is awesome. The one you highlighted. This is another one. I have a series. I'm writing a column that I'm just working on it. It'll come out. I don't know when. Questions to ask folks in your family and friends on the left. Non-aggressive. They're not aggressive questions. Like, if a person believes that in 12 years life on Earth will be threatened with destruction by seas overwhelming coasts, would you keep or sell your coastal property? Is that a fair question? No, I'm not.
Yes, I get. Yes.
So the next one is: would you or would you not like data on whether or not anyone arrested by the police is an illegal immigrant or not?
Right. Do you want the numbers? Should the government count?
That's right.
No, they shouldn't count. How dare you?
No, but it's an astonishing thing.
Yep.
If that's not proof. I get flack on occasion. People. I read comments on my columns. I find them totally illuminating and fascinating, and including the cursing me out.
Right.
It's just fascinating to me. It's a window into America.
Yeah.
And Prager says that the left is for open borders. Well, of course they're for open borders. Mm-hmm. You don't have to use the word to say that you're for open borders. But this is a perfect example of it. If you're not for open borders, then wouldn't you want to know the rate of crime among illegal people coming in here illegally?
On the open borders point, it just occurred to me when you're saying that, because I hear the Democrats saying this all the time too. We're not for open borders. You always hear people say that. Look, words are not always all-encompassing or, perfectly exclusive of the outliers. I mean, I think they are for open borders. But beyond that, this is like the old, remember during the Cold War, what do you mean communism? And so, you're stuck in a debate for 45 minutes on what communism...
That's right, it's not really communist.
I call it the left's scorched earth policy of argumentation. They retreat, burning the English language as they go. So we can never actually talk about anything.
We'll be back in a moment with the non-laconic Ann Coulter.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. 1-8-PRAGER-776. There's no question, and I don't say this often. I don't know if I've maybe said it once before, and I don't even recall if I did. I could have a 3-hour show with you, and nobody would be bored. Folks, you have to understand something. She is a firebrand, says some wild stuff, but is a brilliant woman. This is a knowledgeable, brilliant woman. And there is no reason she doesn't hire me, she didn't pay me, I don't work for her, we're not in conjunction, she likes my wife more than me. I mean, I have no personal interest in this.
And I am sitting here beaming, which you cannot see on radio.
We're talking about what is really now, this is brand new to me, my dear friends. It's not new to Ann Coulter, but it is new to me, and I admit it. I never realized how much cover-up is being done. You talk about deep state.
Yes.
People say, what is deep state? When your government has vast numbers of people in it working against your society. That is a deep state.
Well, that's why Trump won, and that's why his presidency has been, in many ways, so disappointing.
There we differ. I think it's been magnificent.
Okay, on immigration. Now, I was going to say...
That's an important little... Okay.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I agree with you. It has been disappointing on immigration.
But the defense on a certain conservative network is always, it's not his fault, it's it's Paul Ryan, it's Mitch McConnell, it's his staff at the White House. Well, who hired them? And no, I'm sorry, that's no excuse. Trump ran against Paul Ryan. He ran against Mitch McConnell. He ran against both Republicans and Democrats. They all hated him. Remember, every time he'd take a great stand on immigration, Paul Ryan and McConnell would rush out and say, that's not who we are. I mean, there has never been such... People talk about this or that president having a mandate. There has never been such a ringing endorsement for a specific mandate, and it was on immigration because we've been betrayed by both Democrats and Republicans for so many years. With other elections, even Reagan, with Russia, the Soviet Union, the evil empire, that was important. Cutting taxes was important, but also he seems like a decent man. He'd been governor of California. You know, a big argument was California would be the 6th largest economy in the world if it were a country. He seemed like a competent manager and a decent person. Let's give him a shot. You can't really say you didn't have, even Bush, the first Bush was a terrible president. Okay, he was Reagan's vice president. We feel like he learned something. He was head of the CIA. With Trump, he wasn't head of the CIA. He wasn't governor of California. He wasn't vice president to the greatest president we've ever had. He comes out of nowhere, so the fact that he won makes his mandate the clearest bell the American people have ever rung on a mandate. They have never reached so far to have a mandate as to put this man in the Oval Office. It's not just that he said it every day at every campaign speech. It's that,
all right, so
why
fine.
else were you voting for him?
Okay, fair enough. It is a fair and passionate. Both are true. That is fair and passionate. So the question is, in your mind, since he has been so magnificent, in my opinion,
on many other things,
right? Exactly.
Well, that's
and gutsy,
right?
What happened here?
One thing in defense of people like me and all of us who ferociously supported Trump, because some of my friends who never, some of them like Heather McDonald, and they're smart. I love them. They always hated Trump, said he's a liar and a con man, and I said I don't
Wait,
care.
Heather McDonald? She's I love Heather.
She's
and
brilliant.
She does magnificent work. I never talked to her about Trump, so you see.
Yes.
Okay, I don't care though because
either did I.
She
or
doesn't
do I.
write against him. She's not using the power that
She's not silly. I mean, her complaints are perfectly legitimate.
Right.
Let me put it that way. But the idea now, not she, but people like her. I was just citing someone well known. So that would be many of my friends coming back, now and saying, "We told you." No. In my defense and in defense of all Trump supporters, in a far more complicated area, the judiciary. Trump has been better than any president in my lifetime, probably since the history of the Republic. Why? Because of course he doesn't know what he's doing. He farmed it out to the Federalist Society. Why didn't he farm out immigration?
So I'm asking you, okay, that's why. Do you have a theory? Do you have a theory on it? Back in a moment, Dennis Prager with Ann Coulter.
The Dennis Prager Show.
And I'm telling you, we could do a marathon session.
I know we should.
Yes. I think sometime in the summer, I think we should do something like that.
It goes really fast.
It goes really fast, and do you know I have a theory? You'll like this, Ann. I've always looked at myself from outside myself, and I realize why I'm interesting. Because if you're not interesting, you can't do this work.
Right.
It's just like you can't have shaky hands if you're a surgeon. Okay. And I think one of the reasons is, it's not the only, is I get bored so quickly.
Yes, me too.
That I would bore me.
Yes.
So you resonate to that.
That's how I write my books. If I have to read them over and over and over again.
Yes, it's a bad sign.
If I'm not laughing and enjoying this,
right.
I force my friends like Robert here to read chapters. How do I lure them into it?
He complains to me every week. I get email from, I can't believe it.
Not enough jokes in this one.
Yeah, right. No.
Get to the point, Missy.
With you, my point though is not to talk about me, is to use me as an example. But that with you, it is not an issue. what you say is important and interesting. You have thought it through. This issue of why the president did not use his power in the Congress the first 2 years on the issue for which he was elected more than any other is a riddle.
Yes, it is, and I wanted you to ask me this so I could say one other thing about it before we moved on to the next topic. Although I can't precisely say why, I can say how, and that is by bringing in an entire White House staff that are either idiots, patsies, or most often actively hostile to Trump's agenda. So what needs to be done going forward, that I can tell you is a fact. What happened in the past, I can only speculate about. He needs to fire the kids. Jared Kushner was telling journalists back during the campaign when they were asking, what, you're working for your father-in-law's campaign and you're a liberal Democrat. He assured them all, you know my father-in-law, he's not going to build a wall. So this has become a talisman for the left, that, we can count on Jared and Ivanka. They're going to block the wall. Mulvaney, huge amnesty supporter. You heard, I assume, I was hanging on every word and could barely get anything done this week, how the Angel Moms went to Washington this week to oppose the bill. They go to Capitol Hill. They talk to some Democrats. They go to the White House. No room at the inn. Mick Mulvaney told the Angel Moms, no, you cannot see Trump before he signs this bill because we're afraid if he sees dead kids, he won't sign the bill. The Angel Moms started to plan a protest outside the White House, and who called and screamed at them, how dare you do this to the president? Mercedes Schlapp and Kellyanne Conway. If you are going to surround yourself with people who oppose your agenda, I mean, that's why I'm contrasting it with the judiciary when, oh, come on, Trump didn't know Brett Kavanaugh walked the face of the earth. And yet, he makes this magnificent appointment because he delegated to people who do know and who agree with his agenda. There are plenty of people to hire. Chris Kobach.
Then in that case, and in light of the fact that people can't get data, I'm starting to realize this is the issue of the day, and you were right all these years. This is, yes, no, it's true, and I always agreed, but I didn't realize that this is the barometer of this society.
And divides the the new Trumpian Republican Party from the old tax cuts. What do you need, Wall Street?
By the way, on behalf of the woman we both love, I want to ask you a question. How important do you think E-Verify is in solving this problem?
It's important, but I don't count on it because I promise you it will be undermined. That was one of the surprising things I found out when I wrote Adios Mayor. What happened to all the promises with Reagan's amnesty? Well, the main promise he made wasn't a wall back then, although there were going to be barriers and we're going to defend the border. The main promise is we are going to be pedal to the metal with employer sanctions. And guess which party came in and dismantled them? Not the Democrats. So when you have both the Republican Party and the Democrats and all the rich saying, no, we want to hire cheap illegal alien labor, yes, I think we ought to force E-Verify as long as Trump is president, but it's going to be like footprints in the sand. A wall is forever. Only a wall is forever.
I have another deep concern, the Central Park murders, but this is too important to me. I want to take a call. Dion in Chicago. Hi, you're on with Ann Coulter and Dennis Prager. Uh-oh. Dion is not... Dion, you're on the air. Dion, you're on the radio. Dion. This is Dennis Prager. We're waiting. We've been waiting for you, Dion.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me take you off the speaker. Hold on one second. I'm going to take you off. Hello?
All right, okay, Dion, if you call a radio show, you got to be ready to talk. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. I was listening to you on my car, on the car radio.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, I was a police officer for 17 years in Cook County, Chicago. So I was just trying to answer your question about, or give you some insight about why it's difficult to find these numbers.
Yes.
So during Obama's second term, I don't know when the actual date and the year started, but at one point, I'm going to say maybe around like 2010 or whatever it was, we started getting these orders, getting these policy procedure changes from taking arrestees from the police department to be processed at the sheriff's department, which would be Cook County when you're talking about where I'm at. So the procedures were, we ran into an issue where we had to ask about their race and if they was an illegal citizen or not. We were told we could no longer do that. And if they were here illegally, they had the right to speak to a representative from their country or their consulate, which you only have 72 hours to process somebody. So we only had 72 hours to process.
Wait, this order came from Washington?
No, this order came through our police department.
I know that.
Our chief department.
You mentioned.
I think it might have been a consent decree, which is the most evil form of government.
You are, Dion, it was worth the original problems to hear from you.
Thank you,
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Find out what they are in the latest video at PragerU.com, where we teach what isn't taught. So many good calls. This really buttresses my argument for 3 hours with Ann Coulter. I've never done it, but I think we should. I mean, here I am saying it publicly.
And we just picked up a few new topics that we weren't able to get to in this hour.
There are so many. Anyway, I want to know about your next cookbook. You said you're writing a cookbook. And, you know, me and my listeners were just cooking is a big thing on my show.
I was, as you may be aware, very depressed when Trump signed this bill. I think it really puts him in a very difficult position to use inherent powers of the president to build the wall, which he has always had. To declare the emergency, well, having just signed a bill, he has to go to the court and say, it's an emergency that I not follow this bill that says that I can't build a wall on the border and so on and so forth.
He didn't want to close the government. It's clear. That was the issue.
He could have asked for a continuing resolution, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But
all right.
I will say... I did practice law for a while, and one of the phenomenon of being a lawyer is you get handed some crap-ass case, and you're thinking, my client is totally in the wrong. This is a loser, a dog of a case. Why are you giving this to me? I'm going to lose. And then you start writing your arguments, and you convince yourself, and by the time you're presenting your brief, you're just full of righteous anger. How could any court disagree with me? Nothing has changed. You've just convinced yourself. I will probably end up doing that on the emergency order, but I want to tell you that in the clear light of day,
by the way,
I think he's really screwed himself.
You want an example of a lawyer who has the exact situation you just described? Smollett's lawyer.
Yeah.
That is, I was sure you were just going to say, and let me give you an example. I mean, if a man has been given a losing case, it is like defending John Wilkes Booth.
Right.
What? One of them already quit? Since the show began. All right, look, you're back for the issue, because this is very important, about the Central Park.
Trump is absolutely right on. He was so courageous during the campaign. Bring that Trump back. Fire the White House staff.
He's still courageous. He makes mistakes. He's human. He's been extraordinary. And so are you, Ann. And let me just say, folks, Mike, Chuck, Dennis, Gregory, Ray, Mike, Barry, and Andre. By the way, does Mike and Glendora know Mike and Elsa Goodo? You know, the Mikes.
You're both Prager listeners. You'd have a lot to talk about.
They would, in fact. Folks, forgive me for not getting to your calls, but we're going to review this subject again. And Ann, what's the latest book? I want people to read everything you wrote.
Resistance is futile, how the Trump-hating left lost its collective mind.
Bless you. Keep writing. See you tomorrow, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager.